Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for taking time to be here this evening. This is the Idaho Falls City Club Legislative Candidates Forum for District 35, and I welcome you here. My name is Rebecca Casper, and I serve on the City Club Board of Directors, and as a result of that, was invited by my colleagues to moderate the panel this evening, or the forum, I should say. I wish to begin by thanking the City Club sponsors who made this event possible. We have Idaho State University and KISU. They are always there to support. We have the Idaho Humanities Council. We have the Idaho National Laboratory, as well as Battelle Energy Alliance, and the Bank of Idaho. They are consistent sponsors of City Club activities. We want to give some special thanks tonight to IE Productions and East Idaho News for their role in helping us to live stream the event tonight. Thank you, and I want to thank also the technical crew who's here to make sure that we can be heard in the room. So with all of that thanking having been said, I want to move on to sharing with you just a little snippet from the Idaho Falls City Club mission statement. It says, the City Club of Idaho Falls exists to sponsor civil dialogue on all matters of public interest. And so this event, therefore, fits very nicely within our objectives and goals as an organization. And that's why it's appropriate for us to host this event for the entire community and to help all of you and those who are watching virtually to get to know the candidates who are running to represent the constituents of District 35. Our goal this evening is exactly that, to help and to better inform Eastern Idaho voters. I'm not, as a moderator, interested in skewering anybody or getting some hot fighting going on. This is civilized discourse. And so we just have, I guess, some format rules that I want to share with you, and then we'll be able to get into the introductions and questions. So the candidates here this evening, and I'll introduce them in a moment, are each going to be given 3 minutes to introduce themselves and explain why they're running for the legislature. Then that will be followed by questions. Yes, 3 minutes is what was shared with the candidates. All right, so after the introductions, we'll go to questions, and we'll give candidates 2 minutes to respond to each question. At the end of that time, candidates will then be given 3 minutes to close and to leave with you any parting thoughts about why you may want to cast a vote their direction. Rebuttals may be permitted at the discretion of the moderator if a candidate specifically mentions their opponent's name and there is a need to defend something. But I am hoping candidates that will refrain from a lot of that, because we want to be able to just help the voters become educated on the issues. So if you could maybe not mention your opponent unless there is a real distinction and a real reason for having to do that. Also, I will mention that seated here in the front row is another City Club board member, Ms. Lexi French, and she is our timer this evening. And so candidates, she'll hold up a yellow card when you have 30 seconds, and then she'll hold up a red card when your time is done. And I'm going to, without being too pushy, I'm going to try to move right on the minute I see red, and we both see red. So I will just say, finally, audience members here tonight, and some of you have already done that, but you can use a card to write questions and wave them in the air if you've written your question, and someone will collect that and bring them to me, and I'll see what I can incorporate. But I do have more than enough questions here to fill the time from those that have been submitted online. So anyway, with that, I'm going to tell you that in today's very polarized political environment, I want to remind, just once again, both our candidates and our audience members of the importance that City Club places on civil discourse. So during tonight's program, as always, we ask the candidates to comport themselves as individuals worthy of the high honor and respect that one should take to the state's highest deliberative policy-making body. Please don't use vulgarity or make any personal attacks. Audience members, I would ask that you hold your applause until the end of the evening. And I would just remind you that you don't need to express yourself in this forum with, boos and cheers and whistles and anything else, because you get the best way to express yourself in the ballot booth, or at the voting booth when you cast your ballot. That is the ultimate form of expression for this kind of a forum. So anyway, just keep that in mind when you're tempted to cheer or boo. The less we have of that, the more we can hear from them. So I think we might be ready to move on. And so I'll tell you that tonight we have the privilege of hearing from the candidates running for District 35 Senate and both House seats. And they are, for District 35 Senate, we have incumbent Senator Mark Harris running against challenger Doug Toomer. For House seat 35A, we have Representative Kevin Andrus running against challenger Jon Goode. And for House seat 35B, we have incumbent Representative Chad Christensen, who will be debating challenger Josh Wheeler. So Did I say anything wrong there? Did I get it right? All right. So let's begin, and I'll try to rotate how we start so that not the same person starts every time. And so for right now, the introductions, we'll start right here with you, Mr. Toomer.
Okay. Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you, City Club, and everybody for coming here. I'm Doug Toomer, and I'm running for Idaho State Senate, District 35. A little bit about me. I'm a fifth-generation Idahoan. I grew up in Rigby on a farm. I've been married for over 42 years, have 2 children and a daughter-in-law. I worked at the Idaho National Laboratory for over 40 years. I am an expert in spent nuclear fuel and special nuclear material management. I started as a laborer and was a senior program manager when I retired. I'm well known for my tenacity and my ability to solve very complex problems. Unfortunately, I was forced to retire before I wanted to. Prior to my forced retirement, I was known as a relationship manager, and I was the primary point of contact for a nuclear startup company called TerraPower, which is owned by Bill Gates. We'd been working with TerraPower for a few years when I caught them trying to patent a nuclear fuel design that had been developed by INL scientists, a design potentially worth hundreds of billions of dollars. I called time out on TerraPower's activities, which angered TerraPower, Bill Gates, and INL management. As a result, my responsibilities with TerraPower were terminated and I was forced to retire. I do have lawsuits going against TerraPower and INL. I am a whistleblower. Over a year ago, I got upset about what I saw happening in our country and the state. Questions with election integrity, shutting down churches and small businesses, but not big businesses. So I decided to figure out what was happening and see what I could do. I ended up starting an organization called Stand Up for Idaho, a nonpartisan citizen organization actively advocating for the rights and liberties of all Idahoans. While working to Stand Up for Idaho, I realized our great state is not what I thought it was. Our state government and legislature is not acting in the best interest of Idaho citizens. I personally attended state legislative sessions and witnessed blatant actions by legislators that were done strictly for political gain and not in the interest of Idaho citizens. This was especially evident in the Senate. They support big business, special interests, and elitists. This overt willingness of the legislature not to support Idaho citizens need to change. I decided to become directly involved so I could influence and correct what was occurring. I recognize I cannot change things by myself, but I vow I will stand up and be an active voice for Idaho citizens. I will strive to influence other legislators to do so also. I am a Republican. I support its platform. I believe in God, family, the Constitution, and our country. I believe America and Idaho are exceptional. The Constitution starts with we the people, not we big business, we special interest, or we the elite. I vow to fight for we the people. That means you as individuals, to make it a government of the people, by the people, for the people. I've already stood up to corruption to one of the richest men in the world, and I would appreciate your vote so I can fight for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator?
Thank you. I'd like to thank the City Club for having us here, and I'd like to thank all of you for being here. My name is Mark Harris. I'm currently representing the old Legislative District 32 in the Idaho State Senate, and I am running to represent the new Legislative District 35. And my wife and my 4 boys and I live on a cattle ranch just south of Soda Springs in north of Montpelier, north of Georgetown. This ranch has been in our family for several generations. It's an honor and a privilege to serve in the Idaho State Senate. It's something I take very seriously, and the people there, the other senators, are good people. And 201, they have the best interest of the Idaho at heart. I have served in the Agriculture Affairs Committee. I've served in the Senate Transportation Committee. I currently serve in the Senate Health and Welfare Committee and the Senate State Affairs Committee. I am a co-chair of the Joint Legislative Oversight Committee, which oversees the Office of Performance Evaluation, and I was elected by my peers to be the Senate Majority Caucus leader. Idaho is in a good place fiscally. In my time in the legislature, we passed 3 of the largest tax cuts in Idaho history. The largest being this last tax cut that we passed this last session, which gave or appropriated or gave $600 million back to the Idaho taxpayer. I am a strong advocate of private property rights, a defender of Idaho's water. I'm a strong advocate of agriculture, the mining industry, business, and a strong advocate and supporter of responsible, quality public education. One thing I've learned in the legislature is to be effective, you have to learn how to listen and how to work and be able to work and willing to work with others. I've done this. I know how to be effective. I know how to work with others. And I do go to Boise not to make political statements, but I go to roll up my sleeves and work and solve problems and deal with issues. And anyway, I support or ask for your support and ask for your vote. And again, I'm glad to be here, and I look forward to this forum. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Christensen.
Thank you, Rebecca and Mayor Casper, and thank you for the City Club for letting us be here as well. I'm running again for re-election, District 35. As Senator Harris said, we're now in 32, and it's been a pleasure serving District 32. It kind of hurts to see some of those folks go and in Franklin County and Oneida County. I was born here in Idaho Falls. I went to Rice College and then finished at ISU. So I used to come to this campus quite a bit. Served in the military for about 12 years in the Army. I was in military police. And I became an investigator for the military police as well. Locally, I served as a juvenile probation officer, also in juvenile detention, and then with the state probation and parole. And then went from there to welfare fraud investigations for the state. I've been in office for 4 years now. I believe I've proven my record. It speaks for itself, I believe, defending the Constitution, your God-given rights. I promised my constituents when I ran in 2018 that I would stand for their rights and the Constitution, and I've done just that. And I'll keep doing that. I've proven myself, like I said. I have scores with the American Conservative Union, Idaho Freedom Foundation, Club for Growth, Economic Growth. They're all A+. Those organizations rate legislators on the Constitution, limited government, less taxes, less spending, those real conservative principles that matter. And so I've proven myself those 4 years. While in office, I believe... Anyway, this year, Heather Scott and I had a bill to end the emergency order, and it passed the House easily, and the next day the governor ended the order. Was that a coincidence? I don't believe it was. I think the governor was under pressure, and the next day he said he was done with the order, and I believe it's expired now. Last year, I've been very vocal about the COVID mandates, very against it, very against the government intrusion, the constitutional violations. Last year I wanted to get rid of the health district's power completely to issue mandates on citizens. So I had a bill to strip their power completely. I didn't get that done, but we did get something done, me and Senator Vick. We got a bill done that strips the health district's power somewhat. So what's in law now is if the health district puts out a mandate for mask mandates, it has to get approved by the county commissioners as well, every 30 days thereafter as well. And also reduce the violation from a misdemeanor to an infraction. So I'm very proud of that bill getting passed, and as well as the governor's order being done with this year. So thank you very much.
Okay, I'll go. But just to be clear, I'm not running against Chad Christensen. We're in different seats. But he just wanted to sit by me, I guess. Anyway, my name is Kevin Andrus. I'm a current state representative in District 28. But with redistricting, I'll be in 35, and I'm running for seat A. Just first off, though, before that, thank you for putting this on, and thank you all of you that are here and those that are watching it online. We all need more civic involvement, so thank you so much for being involved and taking part in the political process. This is really important, so thank you for that. So yeah, current state representative, been in there 4 years. And then a little bit about myself. I live on a ranch in Lava Hot Springs, Idaho, family ranch where I was born and raised, and currently live there. And there, with my wife and 5 kids, we love the ranch life, and we love the opportunity to be a part of agriculture. I strongly believe in the importance of agriculture in Idaho and recognize it as the lifeblood of this state, and know that we need to ensure the opportunities for agriculturalists to continue going forward. In addition to that, as I've been a representative, I've served on 3 committees all 4 years. The State Affairs Committee, which deals with a lot of life and voting issues, dealing with abortion and pro-life issues. I've been on the Agriculture Committee, where I currently am the vice chairman. We deal obviously with agriculture and the importance of that. And then also I'm on the Business Committee. I feel like those 3 committees are a great representation of Idaho. We have a lot of issues. We've had a lot of progress in protecting the right of life of all individuals, both the born and the unborn. And I am very appreciative of the good conservative state that we have that way. In addition to that, currently in this race, I am endorsed by 3 main organizations that I think are critical to Idaho. I'm endorsed by the NRA. I am a strong supporter of the Second Amendment and recognize the importance that everybody has the right to bear and keep arms. I'm also endorsed by Idaho Chooses Life, that recognize the importance of life and protects that, and then also endorsed by Farm Bureau and recognize the importance of farming and the value that adds to Idaho. And with that, I thank you, and I will just end there. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Jon Goode from Soda Springs, and I want to say thank you to the City Club for giving us the opportunity to have an educated democracy here tonight. Great job. I'm running for House Seat 35A, from which Representative Mark Gibbs is retiring. After 7 terms, in the legislature, I'd like to acknowledge Mark and thank him for his 14 years of dedicated service to the citizens of our great state. A bit of background: I'm an Idaho native, born and raised in Rupert, a couple hours down the road. I graduated from Idaho State University in 1982 with a double major in accounting and finance. I've been a licensed CPA for 39 years. I've had the privilege of living and working in Soda Springs as a manager in a phosphate mining and manufacturing facility where we keep 500 people gainfully employed, making high-quality fertilizer that helps feed the world. I'm very proud of that. Along with my 4 decades of management experience in the resource industry, I've also had lengthy involvement in governance of various industry organizations, many years on the board of directors of the Idaho Mining Association, the Associated Taxpayers of Idaho, and the American Exploration and Mining Association. I also served for 5 years on the Bureau of Land Management Resource Advisory Committee for the Idaho Falls District. If you didn't know, the Idaho Falls BLM manages about 3.9 million acres that stretches all the way from Bear Lake in Franklin County on up to Lemhi and Custer, and includes everything in between. That was an exceptional experience. I'm also proud of my 3 decades of local community service, including stints on the school board, the county hospital board, the Planning and Zoning Commission, and most recently I just finished up my 2nd term of a total of 8 years on the Soda Springs City Council. All of those gave me the opportunity to fix processes that were broken and enhance those that weren't. So why am I running? I want to make sure that our corner of Idaho stays a great place to live, to work, to recreate, and most importantly, to raise a family. My wife of 40 years and I have 2 sons, 2 exceptional daughter-in-laws, and 2 really exceptional grandkids, all of whom call Idaho home. Unquestionably, we have an obligation to our future generations to steward our natural resources, to fund our public schools adequately, and safeguard ourselves from federal, and need I say also state, overreach. It's going to take a group of serious-minded people to get together to promote meaningful property tax reform, continue the trend to better fund our schools, and carefully manage Idaho's water.
Thank you, Mayor Casper. Thank you to all of you in the audience for being here, and thank you to the other candidates for being here. I think it's so important that the City Club provides this forum. Civil dialogue in our processes matters more than ever. I'm Josh Wheeler. I was born, raised, educated, and grew a small business here in eastern Idaho. And my wonderful wife of 24 years, Dr. Laramie Wheeler, was also born, raised, educated, and is growing her own small business here in Idaho. And throughout our many years of living here, both as youth and now as adults with 6 youth of our own, we are continually reminded that we live among the best people in the world. People who value hard work, who believe in our education system, who believe in working together to build strong communities and strong families. We all believe in the small businesses that form the backbone of Idaho's economy. In 2019, after the loss of our 10-year-old son, Han, we were reminded again of your strengths. As our friends, neighbors, and the people of this area carried us through that unimaginable tragedy, after that experience, I was determined to find a way to give back. And a close friend of ours encouraged me to run for a seat on the Ammon City Council. Now, serving on that council has been an incredible experience. And today I'm determined to be an option for District 35. One that won't grandstand and vote in pursuit of a score from special interest groups. I will remember and respect the citizens who send me to Boise. I will be an option that stands up for Eastern Idaho's values. I understand the pains that my neighbors are dealing with rising inflation, rising costs, and record growth. And the problems Eastern Idahoans are facing will require serious, focused leadership. I am prepared and ready to serve. I will support our police and National Fire. I was honored to be endorsed by the Fraternal Order of Police. I will support public education. I will stand up for family values and decency, and was very grateful to have also been endorsed by the Idaho Chooses Life organization. I will respect and sustain our small communities and our local governments. I will stand up to federal or state overreach, because the most effective government is that which is closest to the people. I'm a successful business owner. I learned much about my regulated industry from my grandfather, my uncle, and my father. And that's why I was able to purchase the business from them and continue a 3rd generation of family ownership. That's why I will make sure Idaho stays the least regulated state in the nation. I'm happy to have been endorsed by multiple industry groups, including my local Idaho National Electrical Contractors Association and the AGC. I'm also happy to have earned the highest score, an AQ rating, from the NRA for a non-incumbent. Idaho must have comprehensive tax reform, and that will take serious work and will require all of us working together. I was born and raised in Idaho. I'm proud of Idaho. I'm Josh Wheeler, and I would appreciate your support on May 17th.
I had turned this off, hoping it would eliminate some of that background. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But thank you for the introductions. And I think we'll start off with an issue that several folks submitted questions on. And I'll ask a couple of questions on the topic of education. And this first one kind of frames it just a little bit here. The state legislature allocates roughly 63% of its budget to education. Local funds account for only about 25% of the total revenue per student. When you analyze it that way, you could come up with this idea or this scenario that when it comes to funding Idaho schools, there's a gap between what local citizens can contribute toward education versus what the state contributes. And some would say that a significant reason for this lack of local participation is that there is a supermajority requirement on education bonding, and so because of that supermajority requirement, do you support efforts to lower the supermajority requirement found in the Idaho Constitution? And I think we'll start with Representative Christensen, and we'll work our way that way and loop back around.
Thank you, Mayor. It's an interesting question. I've discussed this quite a bit. You know, most of that money goes to administration costs, and I've always said this, and I believe the whole Department of Education needs to go in Idaho and they get rid of that administration cost and put it towards our students and teachers. And also, for example, here in Idaho Falls, we have 2 districts, 91 and 93, that should be combined. And so we can combine that administration cost. 1 superintendent, 1 administration, less cost for that administration. I also support school choice. Would I lower the supermajority? No, I wouldn't. I think it's fine where it is. We've discussed that in the legislature before, and we voted on that, and it's good where it is. I think that should be a high threshold to spend millions of dollars on schools and other things. So I would leave it where it's at.
Thank you. Let's move on to Mr.
Thank you. I think we all want our schools sufficiently funded. I don't think that's anything new or anything that people don't want here. We recognize the importance of education, and we see the value, especially I see the value in when we support education, we're supporting our future. If we don't support that, then we're in trouble. As far as the lowering the rate and changing the Constitution, I give pause at that. I'm concerned when we're going to change something that is working and was set up. Whenever we're going to tax the individual, that is a serious undertaking. People have their income, and that's sacred. And when we try and take more of that, we need to really think twice about it. And I think the current rate is sufficient, and that gives us a good reason to make sure that when we're going to do something significant as take money away, that we better be serious about it. And I think that rate is a fair rate.
Thank you.
Thank you. The supermajority is in place to ensure that our hard-earned tax dollars are approved by the taxpayers. Now, is 67% the magical number? Obviously, the framers of our Constitution thought it was. Is 50% or 50 plus 1 appropriate? I don't personally believe it is. Is there a compromise in between there? Possibly. I wouldn't go any lower than 60% because, again, it's our hard-earned tax dollars. I think people need to have a say in that. We have a say in what gets spent at the state level through the elections, but at the local level, we need to have that, I think, majority approval of taxpayer funds for school purposes, and I wouldn't go any lower than 60%.
I would be willing to see the supermajority number lowered, but I think we have to be very careful of what that might expose some of the rural school districts that I represent to. Again, I don't know that 67% is the magical formula. The Idaho State Constitution calls for the legislature to provide a free, fair, and thorough education to kids throughout Idaho. And so I think it is important that we look at perhaps more funding needs to come from the state level. You know, the most important local contribution is involved parents, and that's where we really make a difference in our local school districts. So, you know, let's look at maybe the formula of how we fund buildings. Maybe there's something the state can help with there, but I'm not in favor of lowering the supermajority to a simple majority. Thanks for that question.
Thank you. Mr. Chu.
First off, let me say I support teachers and our children. I do not support fat administrations, big buildings, unions. The problem that I have with, a supermajority is I think it's good. It would be too easy, let's put it this way, to increase your taxes and to levy things, you need to know what's going on. You need to make sure that it is in your child's best interests. Having a supermajority means that it is the responsibility of the districts to demonstrate to the property owners that they are worth it and that the investment is worth it. Therefore, I think it should be hard, and the supermajority I fully support because the districts need to demonstrate that the money spent is well worth the education that your child is getting. Unfortunately, throwing more money at it does not create better education. Thank you.
Would I support lowering the supermajority? No, I would not. It was put in place to protect the property taxpayer. And we've seen in years past that if something is needed bad enough, the supermajority will carry and the levies and bonds will pass. And we've witnessed that, and the system works. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's stick with education just a little bit more. Here's an easy question, but bear in mind that you only have 2 minutes. And we will start with, oh, crap.
Andrus.
Yes, no,
Kevin.
no. Is it, I'm so sorry. I'm a little flustered here. I was focusing on other things. Mr. Good. Goody? Good. Is it Goody or Good?
Goody.
I said Goody before, didn't I? And I'm flustered. Sorry about that. All right. So what would you do, maybe just a couple of ideas, things that you would like to see Idaho do to improve public education? And-
Well, they've done a couple. A couple that really impressed me. I think it was a trial bill, Senate Bill 1290, that specifically addressed areas where I live, like Soda Springs. It was the Rural and Underserved Ed Incentive Program. It's a capped amount, so that's why I say it's a limited program, but it actually, to attract teachers to small rural districts, it provides for forgiveness of student loan debt, I believe up to about $12,500. I'd certainly like to see that one expanded a little bit further. We also, I believe, the education funding bill was a great step in the right direction. It brought us up from where we were, I believe, in the lower echelon. We're still, I believe, in the lower echelon, but I think people have heartburn with throwing more money at teacher salaries, but that's the only way that we can keep them in our state. We lose a lot of teachers to Wyoming and Caribou County because they pay more money. And it's a market out there that we are going to have to fight for, and I believe there's, is it just money? No, there's other ways to do it. There's other incentives. I think longevity incentives work as well, but that's what I would promote.
Yeah, I love this question. One of the things that I very much want to see in our public education system is a greater focus on career technical education. I think that will better serve the needs of industries, and I think that's going to provide our Idaho children with more opportunities going forward. It's also important that we continue to support the arts. For me, I want to see things like shop class, which is a little bit career technical education, right? We need to make sure our kids understand that continuing education is not just a 4-year college degree. And look, I'm saying that as a guy with a 4-year college degree who also got his MBA right in this building from ISU, right? Kids need to know all of the opportunities that are out there. And by better incentivizing and funding our career technical programs throughout our public schools, we're going to have more successful kids.
Thank you. All right, we'll come back around to Mr. Toomer.
A couple of things that I would do is, I truly believe in competition, and that everybody needs a challenger, and that includes public schools. One of the primary things that I would do is actually support parental choice in education. You've heard of it a bit. I'd support, the money following the child, going to alternative type schools, if you will, private schools, parochial schools, whatever. I think that is important. The problem is when you have a guaranteed funding all of the time, you get complacent and you get to where you are entitled. You need to create competition. Also, we need to make school and education fun again. And how do you do that? Well, that's part of the requirement, if you will, for a school If your child is going to school that they like to go to school and they're having fun at and they're learning, my goodness, that's a wonderful environment. And so I think the biggest thing really in helping improve our education system is to create a bit of competition, to make performance. In business, if you do poorly, you're going to do poorly. If you do well, you will do well. Again, this is not about the teacher. This is not about the child or against them. It's all for the children. And how do we make that work? Thank you.
As I visited with my school districts around this corner of the state, one thing that they've had issues with is finding teachers, especially in our rural schools. One of the problems that we've discovered is the Department of Education is not recognizing credentialing for teachers from out of state. And I think this is an issue that needs to be addressed. We have a lot of qualified teachers that come in from out of state that can teach, but our department's not letting them teach. And so this is one issue that could be fixed. It's a simple fix, but it needs to be done. The other issue that I would like to see more of is high school partnerships more with the universities. I sponsored a bill last session to allow students that wanted to go in cosmetology to earn credits or earn hours that needed to go towards their licensing to be cosmetologists, barbers, and hairdressers. And I think some schools are doing this. I would like to see more schools do it in respect to welders and plumbers and carpenters and other fields. I think this is a promising thing, and I think we need to push more of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative?
Thank you, Mayor. I touched on this last question. Of course, the school choice or parent choice is, as Doug Toomer mentioned, and good competition is exactly what we need. Along with that competition, there's an issue of CRT in schools, critical race theory, and we passed a bill in the House, it was last year, to end critical race theory, and some teachers around the state said no, I will keep teaching this critical race theory, despite the law. So I believe if we have this competition, that wouldn't be much of an issue, I believe. Parents will leave, go to a private school, go to charter school, whatever. So this is a good, healthy way to address that as well. This year we also passed in the House Bill, the title's kind of scary, but 666. It dealt with pornography in the schools. I would keep pushing that again with the books and libraries. I saw that material in the schools, and it was disturbing. The cartoonish figures with the sexual acts in those books that kids have access to in many schools throughout Idaho. I wouldn't say so much here in our area. I think it's more in Meridian and Boise area, but it's becoming a big problem. So I would address that as well. And I think, Senator Harris and my opponent touched on this, and I agree with this, that we need more technical classes in school. So if they can, once they leave high school, they can have a associate's degree in a technical field. That would be great. I would definitely support that. Thank you.
Thank you. Right off the bat, I would agree with Representative right here about the 666 bill. When someone sends their child to school, they have to know that they're not going to find pornographic material. That's just absolutely fundamental. So we need to clean that up, and also, obviously, we need to make sure that librarians are not going to be liable for something that they're not in charge of. We need to clean that up, and hopefully we can work on that bill again. And then also touching on what multiple others said, I really feel like we need a better structure and support for CTE, getting students opportunities to learn more of the trades. There's a high demand. There's good paying jobs for those vocations. I feel a little bit that schools push to 4-year traditional universities, and that's good, but that's not for everybody. Those that don't love the classroom can thrive in hands-on applications and still feel proud about their work. And the idea that Senator Harris brought up is a great one and then also Representative Christensen, to allow them to do some of that in school, in high school. I think that's a great opportunity. And then also, I feel like there needs to be a better focus on personal finance. So many students graduate from high school and they go out into the real world and they are lost as far as finance, investing, taxes go, and I think we could do a better job that way. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We're going to switch gears here and maybe try to get a little insight into how you work, how you do your work or would do your work. History teaches us that the United States Constitution was made possible because of compromise. In grade school, we learned about the Great Compromise, we learned about the Three-Fifths Compromise, and it's because perhaps a conclusion you can draw is that the framers had the wisdom to compromise. And here we are living in a time where our legislature has demonstrated what we see nationally. This is a time of great partisanship, and it's a time of a lot of vitriol in politics. What would you do to encourage compromise, legislator to legislator, chamber to chamber, and perhaps branch to branch? So let me just, legislator to legislator, how do you get along with your colleagues within your chamber? Or how do you help the Senate and the House get along and be able to get work done? And how do you help the legislature and the governor to work better together? So any or all of those talking points there. And we'll start with, Senator Harris.
Thank you. I think the main thing that we learn there is in the legislature is to always stay professional. Don't ever get personal, because you might have someone that will disagree with you 99% of the time, but you need their vote on that 1%. And so it's always important not to get personal. And the system, the way the orders are run in the Senate and the House, prohibits, it should prohibit or helps prohibit from things from getting personal. It keeps it on a professional level as we run our debate through a chair and then back. As I said in my opening statement, it's important to be able to be willing to work with others and be kind. There's a saying, if you choose to be anything in this world, choose to be kind. And I think that's one thing that we seem to forget sometimes in politics. But it's important to keep that relationship, and it takes effort to work with people, and that's part of the magic of the legislature. It's a bicameral system. It was set up that way by our founders, so there's natural tension between the Senate, House, and the executive branch, and it's always a challenge, but it's an opportunity to work with all those branches, even the judicial branch at times, to come up with solutions. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the Constitution, 200-something years ago, it was a compromise between two parties that were quite alike already. The Constitution, to me, can't be compromised, period. When I got into office, I said I'd work with anybody as long as it's constitutional and not unconstitutional, and I'll keep doing that. And if a Democrat wants to have a bill do a bill with me, and I've actually talked to Democrats before, and I said, is this bill constitutional? And I looked at it, and some weren't and some were. If that bill's constitutional, absolutely, I'll work with that other person. I don't care what party they are. I don't care what their background is. So that's my compromise, I guess it really isn't a compromise, because I won't budge on that, ever.
Thank you. Yeah, for me, it all comes down to relationships. If you want to accomplish anything in life, it doesn't matter if it's politics, work, anything, it comes down to your relationships and how you work and deal with everyone, with other people. And that's especially true in politics, because you can be here and you have a vote, but then you're going to another body and you don't have a vote over there. You have to build relationships and build a rapport. And so that's the fundamental part of it. And then when it comes to compromise, I think along with what Representative Christensen said, there's always room, well, there's room for compromise, but you don't have to compromise, and you shouldn't compromise past your principles and the Constitution. There's other room for compromise, and that's important, but we shouldn't go too far. Thank you.
So one thing we can always agree on is that we may agree to disagree, but we don't have to be disagreeable. One thing I've noticed in the legislature in the past few years is that when legislators disagree with each other, it sometimes turns into a rock throwing contest. Folks will get out on Facebook and post nasty things about the other guy. That has no place in politics, I'm sorry. I would agree with some of the comments made here. Compromise is important. Compromise doesn't mean that you have to get 100% of everything you want. If I can get 80% of what I'm trying to get, I'm willing to give that other 20 to get the thing pushed through. And I'm sticking to that story.
I've actually had multiple years of experience compromising at the negotiating table with my electrician partners, with general contractors, and with the customers that we've served throughout the years, and that's a broad variety. And I have to say that a wise senator, his name was Mark Harris, he once taught me about a magical formula, 35, 18, and 1. To get a bill turned into law, it takes 35 representatives working together, 18 senators working together, and 1 governor. And that cannot be done without professional, respectful, decent relationships with one another. I love to listen, and I intend to treat everyone well, including my fellow Republicans. And that means that there will be times we disagree, but I will never be disagreeable, and I will never stoop to personal attacks, and that means face-to-face and internet-based behavior.
Mr. Toomer.
I've heard it stated that our Constitution was the great compromise. You know what? We have compromised ourselves away from the Constitution. That is why our country and our state is in the position it is in today. And we have to realize that. I will not compromise when it comes to the Constitution. We will understand what it says. We will understand its intent. I will not compromise on the Constitution. We have done so much. Like I say, that is why we have the problems we have today. And that's where I am. Thank you.
All right, we're going to wake everybody up now with a lightning round. And I've taken a lot of the questions that I have and boiled them down to some way of asking you for a one-word kind of an answer. And we're just going to zip through a bunch of things. So they'll either be yeses, nos, or maybe some other word. So I'm just going to do my best to get through this as I've tried to rewrite some of the questions. So no need to time necessarily, but if we have time after this, then I'll take you to one more meaty question before we get to summaries. So here's one. There has been a lot of attention given to federal legislation that's given us the CARES Act. It's given us the AARP, the Rescue Plan Act, and the, did I say ARPA. Okay. And then the other would be the IIJA, I'm forgetting acronyms because I'm nervous up here, but
Take a deep breath.
Something Investment and Jobs Act. What's the first word? Doesn't matter. Anyway, these three bills, these three federal level bills passed by Congress over the past year and a half and prompted by conversations either around the pandemic and or the need for infrastructure investment in our country. Wondering if you have thought about this. When these federal dollars, and we're talking dollars in the millions and for some states, billions, when those come to the state, some say, let's divvy those out and let's spend them. Others say, we are spending our children's future. our grandchildren or our great-grandchildren's future when we spend these tax dollars. Do you favor spending them, or do you favor returning them to the federal government? Just a simple yes, no, and I think we will be starting with Mr. Andrus.
Spend them.
Mr. Goode?
Spend them.
Spend them wisely.
Give them back.
Spend them wisely.
Give them back.
Okay, there we go. Next one. Do you think, when we have players in government, and legislators don't have a lot of money for staff, they don't have a lot of money for doing research, they do it all themselves, and they don't have any staff really to support them. And so you have to get your information from somewhere. But when you do get your information, or do you, just tell me what order, write these down if you can. Voters, party, or Idaho-based interests. Will you give me, or give us the order that you place those three entities in terms of which is most important to you when you're gathering information to inform a vote?
Party and who?
Idaho-based interests, political party, and voters. So give us those three in the order that are most important to you in terms of informing your vote. And we'll start with Mr. Here I am forgetting names again because I'm nervous. Mr. Wheeler.
You're not running for office.
I know. I don't know why I'm nervous. Mr. Wheeler.
Mayor Casper, you're doing a great job, and I appreciate the flavor that you're bringing tonight. For me, the order is voters, 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 then party and Idaho-based interests.
Okay. Mr. Toomer.
Obviously, the voters first, party, big business at the tail end. If those are the only three choices.
Okay.
Voters, Idaho-based interests, and party.
Thank you.
Voters, party and Idaho-based.
Voters, party, interests.
Thank you.
Voters, Idaho interests, and party.
Kind of an interesting thought, isn't it? All right, here's another. With this one, I won't stumble over as much. It's written out for me. Idaho is one of only 3 states without some sort of policy allowing residents to possess products with even low amounts of THC. Do you support the legalization of marijuana for medical purposes? And we're back to you, Mr. Toomer.
With me?
Mm-hmm.
The short answer to that is yes. We need to be careful about how far it goes. A lot of people say, we really need to legalize everything completely. I guess you just wanted a yes or no, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes, I would for that aspect.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Yes, and I'll explain real quick. I was a co-sponsor last year on a bill to make this legal, very stringent bill, very controlled for people that need it with issues that can benefit from THC, and so I've said yes.
All right, Mr. Andrus.
No.
Yes, with thorough and appropriate regulation.
I do not support the legalization of marijuana.
All right, there you have it. Another question, yes or no, and this is hard. This is hard to do yes or no on this, but do you believe Idaho's elections are secure? Oh, and we are starting with Mr. Christensen.
Just yes or no?
Yes or no?
No.
No.
Yes.
Absolutely.
No.
Yes.
Okay, and the next question will start with Mr. Goode. Do you think the grocery sales tax, the sales tax that is levied on groceries should be pulled back?
No.
I do not.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, let's see. Currently, the legislative session typically runs from January to late March. Only the governor can call the legislature back into a special session outside of that time frame. On the November, and when I say late March, it's sometimes late March, sometimes it's early May, but in that time frame. On the November ballot, voters will be asked if they wish to amend the Idaho Constitution so the legislature can call itself back into session without the governor's consent. Do you think Idaho voters should be voting yes or no? And we'll start with, I lost track. I think with Senator Harris, it's you.
Yes.
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 I vote no on that amendment.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next one. Let's talk about mental health. Mental health is something that we have certainly had a lot of conversation about in the context of policing, and we recognize it more and more as the decades go by as a true health issue and not a stigmatized decision or choice that people make. And so I'd like to find out if you support increased funding at the state level for mental health services. And I've lost track. I think we're starting with Representative Andrus.
Yes.
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 Yes with conditions.
Yes.
Yes with conditions.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think that's all I want to try to fit into this lightning round, and I want to go to one last question before we get to summation. And that would be, if elected or reelected, what is the most important bill that you're committed to carrying in the 2023 session if you are elected? And please bear in mind that a lot of the folks out here are looking for how you want to improve our state. So we are starting, I've lost track now. I think we're back to, you started the last one, didn't you, Mr. Goode?
I did.
You did. All right, then it is you, Mr. Wheeler.
Oh, very good. Well, first of all, if I am elected, I will be so grateful to the voters of District 35. It will be my great honor to represent you to the best of my ability and to work for you as hard as I work for my family every day. The bill I would be most interested in carrying is one that incentivizes and improves our career technical education programs, and that especially that will encourage partnership with local industries, because that, keeping it local and involving our industries, is going to produce the best product that we can, and that product is kids that are ready for a 21st century workforce. That's my bill.
Okay, Mr. Toomer.
If I were elected, my first bill, would be to ensure that the social, environmental, and government credit scoring does not occur in Idaho. That's where they will and can decide whether you deserve, whether they can shut your bank account off or not, whether you deserve credit or not. You either live the way they say or you get nothing. I will work, and that will be my first bill that I sponsor, to ensure that that does not come to Idaho and that we guarantee our liberties and our freedoms as Idahoans. Thank you.
I would like to see some meaningful, deep property tax relief. So far, the legislature, we've just been able to nibble around the edges on meaningful reform. Property taxes are hurtful to many of our citizens on fixed incomes. We're seeing a housing shortage in some areas in our district because of high property taxes. I think it's something that we need to address, especially in our state that's growing exponentially and by leaps and bounds.
I have a long list of bills to work on. The top of the list, I have some gun bills and some property tax bills like Senator Harris talked about. I have to agree with Doug Toomer. The ESG is a serious issue. And last session, Representative Barbara Ehart up there on the very top worked on this quite a bit, and I appreciate her work on it. Glenn Beck came to the Capitol and talked to us, a few of us legislators, about this environmental, social, and governance issue. And he said this is the last blow to freedom. If we lose this battle, we're in serious trouble. As Doug explained, if you, for example, if you have a gas guzzling diesel truck and your bank knows this, they can lower your score and you couldn't get a loan. Or if you support, you buy a gun with your bank card. Your bank could see this and help to lower your score. This is a reality. There are actually ESG positions throughout the country right now being hired, and many of these organizations already use them. Merrill Lynch uses it. Bank of America uses it. There's several out there already doing it. So this is the last bullet of freedom. And so for me, this is the top of the list. And I agree with Doug on that.
Thank you.
First, I would definitely agree with the ESG legislation, but I know that it's already in the works, and I'm already supporting that. So I'll talk about something else. I met with an organization this year, this legislative session, that talked about how at least at one point, and it may currently be this way, but I can't remember exactly, about how an individual could make more money getting government payments and programs than they could out in the workforce getting a general minimum wage job. And that really concerns me. So I've been in contact with them, and we're working on ways that we can modify things to make it to where people that can work are working. I want to emphasize that those programs are important, and those that need them, I'm all for that. But when people are on those programs and they don't need it, we need to do our best to get them in the workforce. Not only because it's good for Idaho, but it's especially good for that individual to have a job and to work for a wage, and that'll bless their lives as well, more than the benefit that they will give to Idaho. So I will be working on that. Thank you.
Well, Senator Harris and I totally agree on meaningful property tax reform. In the 21 legislature, not this most recent one, but a year and a half, 2 years ago, there was a lot of distractions going on, and the property tax bill that was passed, House Bill 389, was a bit of a disaster in my opinion. They tried to do a one-size-fits-all. I don't think they spent appropriate amount of time on that bill. It benefited some cities, it hurt smaller cities. In 22, they attempted to put some Band-Aids on that and correct it. I don't believe that's necessarily a major improvement. There was some improvement there, but I think we need to start back at square one, look and see what are we really trying to accomplish here with our property taxes, and build it up from the bottom with something that will accomplish, we're not going to kick widows out of their houses. We're not going to price people out of business. We still want to stay competitive, but we're going to have to collect some property taxes, obviously. Anything that we reduce, we're going to have to find alternate funding sources for that, but we've got to keep it balanced. So my highest priority would be to find meaningful property tax reform.
All right, so we have just about gotten to the point where we're going to need to start turning to our summations. But I do want to ask another lightning round question. I got it at the end and didn't think of it as a way of maybe asking it as a lightning round. If I leave off the submitted question and why, if I leave that part off, we can maybe get this one. And we'll give you a sentence rather than a word. A sentence rather than a word. And we will start with, excuse me, we'll start with you, Mr. Toomer. Voting is essential to our democracy. And we've already touched on voting a little bit as you weighed in on whether our elections are secure. But this is about you'll see what it's about. Do you believe Idaho needs restricted voting times and voting locations and mail-in ballots? Or do we need to have those broadened, right? So we're talking about voting times, voting locations, and how you cast your ballot, right? By mail or dropping it in or actually casting it at a polling place. So do you think we need to make changes there? I see some quizzical looks. Not a helpful question? Or should I rephrase, should I try again? Do we need to clarify this again?
Yeah,
All right.
ready. Bring it. Yeah.
Voting is very important. We all recognize that. It is the foundation of who represents us and how we express ourselves as voters. Because it's important, do you believe that Idaho should restrict voting or not restrict voting? And we're talking about, when we're talking about restricting or broadening, we're talking about time, location, and manner, right? And the manner would be mail-in or drop it off at a secure little, what do you call it, repository or something? So here's the question. You get a sentence this time. And I've used up all your time with the question, but here we go. And we'll start with you, Mr. Toomer.
Oh, okay. I believe voting should be done in person, if at all possible, and with clear identification of the voter.
Thank you.
That one sentence?
That was one sentence.
Voting is extremely important, and I hesitate to restrict people's ability to vote. Again, like Mr. Toomer said, voting in person is ideal, but some are not able to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Christensen.
Yeah, I support in-person voting with ID, with valid ID. I don't support mail-in voting or drop box. Those are insecure ways of voting.
Thank you.
Yeah, voting needs to be as difficult as we need to make it to make sure there are not bad voters that are not legal.
In-person voting with IDs, absolutely, but there's an element of our population that can't do that. We need to accommodate them as well, and I think with appropriate controls, that can be accomplished.
I only had one sentence.
The more people that vote, the better. And I want to make sure that any restrictions that get put in place do not harm the citizens of the rural parts of my district's ability to vote. That is a fundamental American right.
Okay, that was more than one sentence, but we're done. All right, so before we turn to the summations, and we're going to start with Representative Christensen, and we're going to work our way toward me and loop around. All right, we're just going to mix it up. I just wanted to let you know, audience members, that we didn't touch on things that I really wish we could. And so, I'm willing to stick around for another hour and a half. I don't know if anybody else is, but we've got property taxes. We've got fentanyl, which is decimating communities in some ways. We've got drought, which is, historic, and it's important and it's very impactful. We've got growth, unprecedented growth for our state at this time. How do we manage that? We've got issues associated with doxing and with ethical behavior by members of the chambers that you're seeking to be a part of. We've got energy issues and a grid to build out. We've got so many things that I really wish we could talk about more. I encourage you to take advantage of Idaho being a small state and reach out to the members if you've got questions that didn't get touched on or didn't get adequately touched on this evening. And I'll take the blame for not asking tight questions. But thank you for being here tonight. And let me then turn to Mr. Christensen. We'll give you 3 minutes each to give a summary.
Thank you, Mayor. Something I want to touch on is the three branches of government. My opponent said he wouldn't support a constitutional amendment to convene when we need to convene. I'm very much in support of that. There's a big reason for that. All branches are not actually equal. The legislative branch should be the most powerful because it's the people's branch. Our founders set it up that way for a reason, because we represent the people. And for us not to convene when we need to convene for you is a big problem. That should be, number one, we are our own power, period. Shouldn't be called by the executive branch, shouldn't be controlled by the executive branch. We should be separate power, and act when we need to act for you. As I've stated, the Constitution is very dear to me. When I ran for office, I told my constituents that I would protect it at all times. Never waver on it. I don't believe I have. A little while ago, 4 years ago, I had an experience in Bear Lake County. I'm going to share this with you. I don't share it very often. I shared it last week in Bear Lake. I was knocking doors this day, and it was getting late, and I decided to be done for the night, and I walked down the railroad tracks. And a voice came to me, and it said, "These are my people. Take care of them, and I'll take care of you." And I said, "Yes, I will do that." You come first to me, you always have. Your rights have always come first to me. God-given rights are very dear to me. And I've covenanted with God to stand in the face of tyranny in all facets. I have not wavered. I will not waver ever. If I get voted out of office for doing that, that's okay with me. I'm not afraid to be voted out of office. I'm here to serve by principle and not waver. And I will keep doing that. I love this district that I'm in now, and I'll miss certain counties, definitely. I promise I will serve this new district with the same vigor, the same passion that I have for the Constitution and for God-given rights. That's number one to me. Not spending money, not budgets. Number one for me is God-given rights. The proper role of government is to protect your rights. That is my mission. Thank you.
We're coming this way, Senator Harris.
Oh, sorry. This is my home. Idaho's my home. And it's a good place to raise families, a good place to raise kids. The other day, I had to weigh some cattle on a platform scale at a farm. And as I went over there, the farmer's kid was sweeping the scale off with a shop broom. He's about 12 years old. It wasn't a big deal, but it was to him. That was his responsibility. And this is the Idaho I want to keep. We have a good value system, and we teach our kids good values. I want to carry our concerns, the concerns of East Idaho to Boise, not have Boise dictate their dictates to us. I'm self-employed. I'm actively engaged in Idaho's economy, so what happens in Boise affects me just like it does everyone else. I have the experience, I have the desire to serve, and with your permission, your vote, I will continue to be a strong advocate for private property rights, protect Idaho's water, support quality education for our kids, keep taxes low, and protect our state from federal overreach. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity to speak here. Folks, the government is overstepping its authority in many ways. The most recent, obviously, being the unconstitutional closing of businesses and churches, unconstitutionally forcing mandates on citizens, unconstitutionally separating family members from one another, just to name a few. We are a free nation and a free state, and we must stand up against the tyranny and stop these unconstitutional acts. Government at all levels has grown out of control, not only causing taxes to increase, but they are also taking our rights away. The federal government has become notorious for the strings it attaches to funding. Nothing is free. There are always strings. Many local and state government agencies recklessly accept these funds without consideration of the strings, many of which result in a direct assault on our rights. We need to wean ourselves off of the federal funding and those strings. We really need to be looking at what needs to be done to ensure every part of Idaho government is necessary and efficient. Without question, we need to provide essential services, functions, but I believe many agencies have become bureaucratic and self-serving and feel the need to grow. This growth not only costs more, thereby creating the need to increase taxes, but it also creates more government regulation and control. Government regulation and control is generally not in the benefit of the taxpayer or the individual. We need to stop non-essential government growth and reevaluate how we fund essential government functions. By reducing the amount of non-essential government functions, we will be able to reduce the overall tax burdens on Idahoans. We need to support strong families. Strong families are the foundation of our society and humankind. They are the single most important element to our children and to our society. The family unit is under attack, and it needs to be protected. The Declaration of Independence states, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Whether we want to believe it or not, the truth is our rights and liberties and way of life are under attack. The from within. The country and the state are quickly heading down a path that will make life living in the pursuit of happiness only a dream of days gone by. It is imperative that we start putting the brakes on our out-of-control government. The quality of life future generations depend on what we do today. We must stand up and realize the truth, or our state and country will be lost. As I said before, the Constitution starts with we the people, not we big business, not we special interests, not we the elite. I vow to fight for we the people. That means you the individual. I've already stood up to corruption to the richest man in the world, and I request your vote so I can stand up and fight for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm so grateful for this experience, and I want to say thank you to all of you who are listening and who are here in the room this evening. I would encourage anyone to get involved in your local politics. Running for office has been an experience like no other for me. And my sweet wife, Laramie, and I, when we've been out knocking on doors, talking to constituents, it is an experience like no other to realize how we are connected and the ways in which we make each other stronger and better by working together in our communities. I believe that having a meaningful choice at the ballot box is fundamental to the health of our state and our nation. And that's why I put myself and my family out here in the public eye. That's why we put some of our own hard-earned dollars on the table. We believe it is that important. Let me just talk to you briefly about my to-do list when I'm your representative, District 35. I will continue to support our public school system. I will promote funding and local control for our school districts. I'll support the arts. They are a critical part of our educational system. And I'll continue to invest in Idaho public schools and make sure that vocational or career technical education and university education receive equal weight and importance. I will defend Idaho values. I'll work toward comprehensive property tax reform, and I will encourage family values, decency, religious freedom, and I will continue to protect the sanctity of life. I will support our small business community because they help make Idaho strong. I will also respect and support our local communities and the constituents that I represent. I'll protect Idaho's precious natural resources. I'll push back on federal and state government overreach, and I will fight any attempt to legalize drugs in Idaho. Those who know me know this, and I hope many of you will have more of a chance to get to know me. But I live my values. I don't just talk about them, I live them. I'm Josh Wheeler, and I would welcome your vote on May 17th.
Again, thanks to the City Club for putting this on tonight. What a great event, and kudos to you, Mayor Casper, for keeping us on track here. Well done. As I mentioned earlier, it's going to take a group of serious-minded and experienced folks to promote meaningful property tax reform, better fund our schools so we can meet our constitutional obligation to establish and maintain a general, uniform, and thorough system of public, free, common schools. That's a quote out of the Constitution, by the way. And protect our water. We all know we're in a drought situation. There's opportunities to do that, and I believe the legislature is a good place to start. I also think we're going to need to continue to protect the unborn, continue to defend the Second Amendment, and limit government involvement in the private sector. I'm confident my background, my experience, and my skill set will add solid value to the legislature. There's only one other CPA currently serving, and he's on the Senate side. And to the best of my knowledge, there's no one in the legislature that has my background in mining and manufacturing. Those important industries need to be well represented in Boise. Remember, experience counts. I hope you'll agree with that, and I'd greatly appreciate your support. On May 17th, vote Jon Goode. Remember, Goode is good for Idaho. Thank you for your kind attention this evening.
Yeah, I want to just say that as well. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your support. Thank you, Mayor, for being here and leading us. And then I also want to thank you that have voted me in the past. I really appreciate the opportunity to serve Idaho. It is a great honor to be able to do what I feel is important to keep Idaho safe, and healthy and growing, but also control government and maintain our freedoms. That is essential. I want to talk a little bit about some of the fireball questions, or whatever they were called, sorry, to explain my answers a little bit better. So on the federal dollars that are coming in, if we could send those dollars back and they would go towards diminishing the federal debt, I would be all in favor of that. The problem is that if we reject those dollars, they go to other states, and most likely liberal states. So I have pause at that, and for that reason I think that it should be spent wisely for the future, because that it's going on the backs of the future citizens. When the question on medical marijuana, I'll just tell a quick little story. I had a summer job when I was in college in Colorado on a ranch, and my roommate had a medical marijuana card. That was before Colorado had completely legalized marijuana, and he had a sore arm, so we got to have medical marijuana, and that meant he got to smoke all he wanted. I am not in favor of that. I do think that there's some value in CBD that can be touched into perhaps a little bit more. I know a lot of people that get benefit from that, but as far as smoking marijuana to get medical relief, I'm absolutely opposed to that. And then when it comes to the constitutional change to allow the legislature to call themselves back into session, every time we look to change the Constitution, we need to take that very seriously. In this case, I believe it is a good thing because the state of Idaho is very different than when the Constitution was drafted. It doesn't take us riding our horse to the legislature 5 days from North Idaho anymore. So I think there's things that can be done. I think that's prudent, and especially when we have a situation like we did in 2020, where I think it would have been good that the legislature could have called themselves back into session to address the spending and the overreach from the executive branch. And with that, I just want to say that if you want to learn more about me, you can find my website at andrusforidaho.com, and then follow me on Facebook at Kevin Andrus for Idaho, and I thank you for that.
All right, so now would be a good time to share your thoughts with some applause. I want to just share a couple of closing thoughts. One, I want to recognize that we have Representative Ehart, Senator Lent, and Senator Cook in the audience tonight. They are demonstrating that once you're elected, you are never off the clock. And so, another thing, I just wanted to say, express my gratitude. I think that this was an incredibly dignified experience. And so, and to prove I actually do know who everybody is, Mr. Toomer, Senator Harris, Representative Christensen, Representative Andrus, Mr. Goode, and Councilmember Wheeler, thank you for giving us your time and for being willing to participate in this process tonight and in the whole act of running and thinking about the governance for our state. I also neglected to point out at the beginning that District 35 is new. It's a newly constituted district, taking a little bit of District 34 and a little bit of District 28, and I don't know what else, all coming together to, and 32, I said 34, I meant 32. I did write it down properly, I said it wrong. And so those of you who are here and you know what district you're in, good. Please help your neighbors and your friends and family members who may live around you to grasp the changes that have come about because of redistricting, so that everybody, including all of you, can be a part of the voting experience on the 17th of May. That's Idaho's primary day. Around here, voting booths are 8 to 8, so be sure that you make time in your day to be able to vote. And if I'm wrong on that time, let me know. But the other thing I want to tell you is that voting or registration has already closed. So if you have not yet registered to vote, you can't register to vote right now. You have to. There's a window of time when they close it down. But it will be possible on Election Day itself to register again. So if you haven't done it, you can register or change your registration or whatever on that day. You have, you must have an ID, a valid photo ID with you to vote. And if you want to register, you also have to have some kind of proof of residency. And so, let's see, early voting opens on May 2nd in Bonneville County, and May 6th is the deadline for requesting an absentee ballot. And I imagine that early voting will happen in other counties as well. I know that District 35 is quite large. Thank you to all those of you who traveled to be here this evening, and drive home safely, if you would please, and just get out and vote and take everybody with you. Thank you so much for being here. Good evening.